c'est 27. Faut le mettre pour tendre. Si tu mets pas, t'entends rien.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. Attention, je vais t'enlever si tu veux. Tu peux le garder à côté de toi. Hop. I think we can start. C'est bon? On peut y aller? Okay. Good afternoon, and welcome to this important event on strengthening climate resilience agri-food system through transformative adaptation, multilateral partnership, and strategic investment. On behalf of IDFC, the International Development Finance Club, we are honored to host this gathering at our pavilion and to convene such an exceptional group of leaders from multilateral development banks, national development finance institutions, UN agencies, international network committed to climate action. Today, dialogue comes at a critical moment. There is no any more doubt that climate change is reshaping agricultural productivity, threatening food security, and testing the resilience of communities worldwide, particularly in the most vulnerable regions. The challenge before us demands more than incremental adjustments. Indeed, it requires transformative adaptation, systematic, cross-sectoral intervention that fundamentally strengthen how our agri-food systems anticipate, absorbs, and adapts to climate risks. Okay? Yeah. These events bring together a distinguished panel representing some of the world's leading institutions in climate finance and sustainable development. Casa de Depositi et Prestiti, the European Investment Bank, Agence Française de Développement, International Finance Corporation, which is the private arm of the World Bank Group, and IFAD, the International Fund for Agricultural Development. Together, we represent billions in development finance, decades of field experience, and most importantly, a shared commitment to building a resilient food system that protects livelihoods, strengthens ecosystems, and advance sustainable development. Over the next hour, or plus, I don't know, we will explore how multilateral cooperation, innovative financial instruments, and strategic partnership can unlock the investment needed to build truly climate resilient agri-food system. We will examine initiatives like the Terra program and the G7 Sustainable Food Systems Collaborative, which demonstrates what coordinates how coordinated action can achieve when institutions align their efforts and resources. Our goal today is clear: foster the dialogue and partnership that will drive collective impacts, mobilizing capital, strengthening policy coherence, and ensuring that adaptation reach those who need the most, from smallholder farmers to rural communities on the front lines of climate change. I now have the pleasure to turn the floor over Mr. Enrico Potricelli, Secretary General of the D20 LTIC and Head of International Institutional Relations at CDP, who will moderate today's discussions. Thank you and welcome again.
Thank you very much, Mustafa, and thanks to colleagues. It's a kind of intimate conversation among us because, but it's working. But I can then okay. I would say it starts as a more intimate conversation among us. Then let's see if we will manage to attract more interest from the audience. Hope so. No, so first of all, a big thanks to Mustafa and to IDFC for hosting us. As we were saying before, IDFC is the common house for many of us, development finance institutions, multilateral development banks. It's I think a very successful initiative. It was growing in along the years, also by committing on concrete cooperation among us with a quite a high level quality work on policy alignment and potential also opportunities for more operational joint activities in a variety of sectors. So again, big thanks to IDFC and thanks to all of you. We already engaged with some of you this morning and in previous days, so thanks also for being with us. I won't be long also because we have a bit less than an hour, and I know that some of you may need to leave earlier. So we put at the core of today's discussion that the obvious topic and issue. I'm saying obvious because it's really already well in-depth discussed here and in many other international gatherings about the nexus about climate and agri-food and how much this is impactful on the delivery of the 2030 agenda and the Paris Agreement agenda. I will skip my introduction in the interest of time, but I just want to mention a couple of figures. Food security is increasingly deteriorating. In more than almost 300 million people faced acute hunger in the last year, with also quite remarkable impact also on global food prices due to geopolitical, economic crisis all over the world. OECD is estimating possible impact of climate change on increase of global food prices by up to 18% by 2050. So there is a kind of multidimensional conversation around this climate agri-food nexus with implications on the sustainable development dimension, on the economic dimension, on the social dimension in developing countries and all over the world. Here we have a gathering of development finance institutions, international funds that are already committing and working on agri-food and the nexus between climate change and agri-food. We decided to put at the core of today's discussion basically three issues, focusing on a specific segment of the climate action agenda, the adaptation one, the more transformative one. We had already this morning in different settings discussion on climate adaptation. So I would invite you to elaborate more on how this nexus that already is, let's say, well, as I said, well discussed, can be further, let's say, explored, this climate agri-food nexus, by using the lens of the more transformative, innovative initiatives in terms of climate finance, in terms of development finance, supporting more adaptation, climate adaptation projects. Second point, we put at the core of today's discussion the issue of multilateralism and multilateral international partnerships. So how we can, as a development finance community, engage more in a coordinated manner. We are looking into a variety of models and initiatives, country, regional platforms, mechanism to move from the project-by-project approach to a more strategic, holistic approach. So also on this, I would love to hear more from you, your perspective, your work already ongoing, and what we can do more. In this regard, I think we have, Mustafa was mentioning already some good, important initiative that we are pushing for. The multilateral initiative we are setting up in multilateral fora, the G7 collaborative on agri-food system launched last year under the G7 Italian presidency, and by CDP is now taking shape together with FinDev Canada and British International Investments, and we are now working on an impact investment framework of the G7 collaborative, engaging already IFAD, FAO, and other key stakeholders in the agri-food sectors, with the goal of moving into the operational phase of this collaborative next year. Tomorrow, here at COP, we will launch in a different setting, the D20, LTSE D20, Long-Term Investors Club Sustainable Food Systems Coalition, which will aim to be a technical and policy a focused platform of G20 development finance institutions with the goal to create common ground and coordination in G20 multilateral fora. Obviously, natural counterpart for this work will be the G20 Global Alliance Against Hunger and Poverty, launched under the Brazilian G20 presidency, and now in the phase of shaping up with the leading role by FAO. And obviously we are also contributing and supporting the Agri-PTP platform led by IFAD and launched at the Financing Commons Summit a few years ago. So you see a variety of multilateral initiatives currently more focused on policy level, but obviously meant to move quickly into the operational phase. And the last point of our discussion, so I mentioned adaptation, multilateral partnerships, and strategic initiatives. In this regard, I think we may have reference to important new initiative. Mustafa already mentioned the Terra initiative, the Terra program launched by CDP with FAO and the European Commission, but I know that all of you, your banks, institutions are engaging in similar, more innovative multilateral initiatives, so also glad to hear more from you, and to use this opportunity to also have some exchange and let's say exchange among yourself, also commenting inputs that will come out from this discussion. So without further ado, I would turn to you. I skipped the presentation. Mustafa already did actually no. You mentioned the institutions, but not colleagues. So let me introduce quickly colleagues in the panel. Cristina Morelli, Head of Sovereign Financial Institutions Corporate Financing at Cassa Depositi e Prestiti. Eva Meyerhofer, Head of Environmental Policy Unit at the European Investment Bank. Mathieu Legris, Head of Department for Agriculture, Rural Development and Biodiversity at the Agence Française de Développement. Et Aurélien Bayer, Global Manager for Climate Finance, IFC World Bank Group. And last but not least, Juan Carlos Mendoza, Director of Environment, Climate, Gender and Social Inclusion Division at IFAD. So with a big thanks to you all, I would quickly turn to you, starting with Cristina, and asking obviously to share with us a bit the strategic approach that CDP is keeping and trying to translate into operational work on this climate agri-food nexus, especially looking at some of the financial tools, Italian Climate Fund among others, and strategic initiatives such as the Italian Mattei Plans for Africa that CDP is very much focusing on. A bit of your take about the key elements that I mentioned before, how we can address this climate agri-food nexus by designing more innovative initiatives, scaling climate resilient agri-food systems through climate and development finance. So over to you, Christina.
Thank you, Enrico. It is a pleasure for me to be here and speak about what we are currently doing in agri-food. I mean, agri-food is for my backbone of many economies in emerging markets. Agriculture and related activities remain the primary source of income for millions of people, of smallholders and rural workers. Agriculture is one of the target sector of the Mattei Plan, so the initiative launched by the Italian government to do international cooperation in Africa, utilizing developing partnership in Africa with African institutions and people. Agriculture and agri-food systems are for sure part of the climate finance action that we can develop being the manager of the Italian Climate Fund. To do so, I mean, CDP is the Italian DFI. We can mobilize our own resources, but we can do it on a market-driven basis. Actually, we are the manager of the Italian postal savings, and we can utilize up to 1 billion euros each year to do development finance. So in order to develop some initiatives in an efficient and effective way in the agri-food sector, what we are currently doing is trying to develop partnerships that could enhance our offer when we utilize our own resources. And that is the objective of the Terra program, which was already mentioned. It's a program launched by the European Commission and implemented by CDP and FAO. It's quite innovative because it's dedicated to agribusiness, is dedicated to private market. Through this program, we can finance both financial intermediaries that do then on lending to small farmers, rural workers, traders, and so on, or support directly corporates. That is mainly in Africa. We have some resources also dedicated to Turkey. We are already trying to do a top-up at the global level. So it's dedicated to agri-food, and it's a blended initiative. We benefit from a 70% guarantee from European Union and technical assistance provided by FAO. And let me say that, I mean, we started this initiative, became operative a few months ago, and we already are committing the entire available resources, which means that private market and agri-food systems really need this kind of initiative. Then we have developed a quite strong relationship and partnership with IFAD in the context of the Italian Climate Fund. So far we developed a couple of innovative initiatives in Africa under the Mattei Plan framework, through which we provided the financing to Cote d'Ivoire and to Senegal, making a top-up to the IFAD initiative. So IFAD designed the initiative, we did a top-up, extending geographically the initiative, and so the numbers of beneficiaries of the program aimed to create food, to develop and increase food security and climate resilient initiatives in the agri-food. And then, I mean, we are also developing together with the Italian government, with the support of UNIDO, an initiative focused on coffee. The initiative, the program is called ACT, Accelerating Coffee Transformation in Africa. We are still under the context, the framework of the Mattei Plan. And we are currently, I mean, coffee is a crop where we have more than 100 million people working on globally. So far, we are developing a couple of initiatives with the Ethiopian and Uganda government. We hope to finalize the design and the structure of the financing soon, because that could be also a way for us to launch a new partnership for this initiative and have also co-financing opportunities for our partners who are here under this framework. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Cristina. Maybe turn immediately to Juan Carlos if it's fine, because I know he needs to leave a bit earlier. So Juan Carlos from IFAD. Cristina mentioned a variety of innovative initiatives that have been shaped up through international partnerships, including IFAD. So again, coming to IFAD, I would ask you to elaborate a bit on the climate agri-food nexus, looking at what IFAD is doing to move forward in terms of more transformational initiatives. We refer to the climate adaptation dimension. We refer to the need to join up forces also in the light of shrinking of fiscal space for public funding. So I would definitely ask you to share with us the way IFAD is planning to address this issue. Obviously, also looking into the way we can ensure local community involvement in this transition process towards more sustainable food systems. So over to you.
Thank you very much. I think on this, maybe let me start by emphasizing the importance that local communities, smallholder farmers, indigenous people, women, youth, people with disabilities, which is another areas of focus of IFAD, has when it comes to the transition to a more sustainable agri-food system. And actually, we do it not only because it's the right thing to do it to make it sustainable, but actually our member states have given us very specific targets and results that they expect us to have, not only with respect to the overall envelope of climate finance, which is meant to be 45% of our financing, but for example, on the number of projects and interventions that are focused on women's economic empowerment, that has a particular focus on youth and indigenous people. And for that, we have different types of methodologies that we use. I have to emphasize, this requires a certain amount of work. Some of it is bringing some of the tools that we already use in international development, bringing it to the climate adaptation space. The most basic one is community-driven development. We have been working on that for decades, but how we bring community-driven development whereby the local community is part of, for example, developing the adaptation plan of the village, or how they are looking at what are the mechanisms that they would undertake in case of climate emergencies. This is something that, for example, in Bangladesh, we have been working very actively. Then when it comes to gender, we have a methodology called GALS, which is the Girls and Women Action Learning System, which is very much at the household level. We work with farmers, their families, and I think we're a unique financial institution because when it comes to matters of gender, we have not only a strategic objective about women economics empowerment, which is what you would expect, obviously, but also two other aspects about equal voice and representation of women in rural institutions and equal sharing of the burden of work at the household level. So this is something that makes, I think, IFAD quite unique. And then the third example that I will use is when it comes to our work with indigenous peoples. We combine our regular IFAD projects with indigenous peoples driven specific activities whereby they receive direct financing from a facility called the Indigenous Peoples Assistance Facility, that in a sense is in parallel and reinforces the intervention of the broader IFAD loan. These are relatively small grants to individual communities of the order of $30,000 to $50,000, but actually the results that we find are really incredible when it comes to the return on investment that we get. And we see a lot of indigenous peoples communities really inserting themselves even in local and international markets on the back of these relatively small investments.
Thank you, Juan Carlos. And I think this allows us to have also reference to the social sustainability and fairness of the transition towards more sustainable food systems. So I think this work with the local communities is of essence, while we look at the way to be more impactful and also to scale projects. We need to combine the scale, but also the local involvement and ownership of communities about this transformative journey, let's say. Turning to Mathieu Legris from l'Agence Française de Développement. Let me first of all acknowledge the strategic excellent cooperation that we have between CDP and the AFD on, I would say, the whole spectrum of activities of development cooperation and climate finance. We really rely on your leading role as one of the most, I would say, powerful and important agency and public development banks all over the world. So really, a big thanks again to you and to Remy for his inspiring leadership, and also for the great cooperation we have in initiatives that actually you launch, AFD launch, Financing Common, IDFC. So I think we share very much the same path, and we are increasingly also moving to joint operation activities in the Team Europe, GEFIC dimension and beyond. So just want to refer to this broader context. But coming back to our topic, climate, agri-food nexus. Again, I would ask you to elaborate a bit on the transformative adaptation approach for agri-food systems that you are trying to implement, also through maybe more innovative projects, initiatives on the ground. Again, coming also back to the scale, to scale and to be more impactful on climate resilient agriculture projects, and obviously at the same time strengthening rural livelihoods, also echoing what Juan Carlos just mentioned. So over to you, Mathieu.
Thank you very much, Enrico, and thank you for your words. They will be transmitted to our CEO Remy Rioux, who just left yesterday the COP. Well, coming specifically on the agri-food sector, a few words of what we do. It is an important sector for AFD. We committed last year 1.7 billion euros with our subsidiary DFI Proparco to agriculture, rural development and biodiversity. Africa remains a priority because more than 30% of our funding goes to this continent, and more than 50% of the projects. Our focus is strengthening food sovereignty by investing in a more productive agriculture that respects the planet. And in particular, we support agroecological transitions, which is our North Star in agriculture, because we believe it's really a credible alternative to address many global challenges: food security and nutrition, of course, decent jobs and better livelihoods, biodiversity issues, and climate, both by mitigation and adaptation. And we think that these agroecological transitions are not just a technical issue. They require strong public policies, because to do so, you have to transform and to guide, to repurpose research institutions, extension and advisory services with new skills, with new guidelines and references, vocational training for agriculture too, and you have to set up incentives for sustainable practices and risk coverage schemes, because this transition is always risky. So these are public investments, and these public investments have to be financed. We have been financed it by projects, all of us, for quite a long time. It's important because projects can demonstrate the feasibility and the impact of innovative approaches, but it's not enough. Projects are not enough. We really have to work at the policy level, and we have to do it together. That's why I think that transformational approaches and collaboration approaches between us have to be focused at country level, because at country level are defined the public policies that can transform agriculture, not only, but especially, I would say. We also have to increase the level and efficiency of investments by mobilizing all stakeholders. You mentioned platforms for PDBs, the G7 collaborative, which is a very important platform, and I would insist on the Agri-PDB platforms led by IFAD in the framework of the Financing Common Summit. Let's recall that PDBs in agriculture represent more than 2/3 of the formal financing of agriculture. So PDBs are key stakeholder in this sector. They have a mandate to fight against poverty, inequalities, and a mandate on sustainability given by the public policy. So this fixed coalition on which we partner strongly with IFAD have now 130 members. It aims at improving capacity of PDBs to contribute to food system transformation, and we believe it has the potential to unlock more public resources and drive private actors for effective, responsible, and just agriculture investment. We also have together to mobilize more responsible private sector capital and blended finance instrument to complement public funding. This is instrumental, but I think my neighbor will maybe develop it later. And we finally have a big work to align financial sector on better standards with PDBs as pioneers. We're in the right place to say that, because IDFC work on that always. So we have made, in the agricultural sector, made a lot of progress on climate, I think. We should do more on new standards regarding the alignment on the global biodiversity framework. French Development Agency has decided, after having aligned its activity on the Paris Agreement, to align it on the GBF. We are currently trying to define what does it mean internally, what can we finance regarding, for example, fertilizer production and use, regarding use of pesticides, what does it mean to be aligned to the GBF? We're on it, and I think we really have a common interest to share this work, to build it together, to be more efficient, and to maximize our common impact. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Mathieu. And I like very much the concept of agroecological transition and different, let's say, layers, technical, policy, political, operational ones. They need to move from project to project approach to country level or even regional level approach, and definitely stronger coordination at policy level. Also leveraging on some multilateral initiatives, and count on us for next year under your leadership, actually, of the French presidency of the G7 to see how we can further work on the G7 collaborative, but also align with the Agri-PDB platform and the other multilateral initiative, and also on the operational side, on the work on the ground, try to further strengthen multilateral cooperation through JFIC and many other coordinated initiatives. You refer already to your to the colleagues sit beside you. So I turn to Aurélien Bayer from IFC Group. That Aurélien, I think, will allow us also to put some lights on the other key elements, how we can better unlock private capital to we can leverage more on private capital to foster climate resilience, agri-food initiatives, and be more, let's say, successful in this agroecological transition, as Mathieu was referring to. IFC, and I would say broadly, World Bank Group is working, focusing very much on a holistic approach, on a holistic strategy on the agri-food sector. So obviously, it would be good also to hear from you about this overall approach, but definitely also asking you from IFC perspective to give us a bit the sense of the way IFC World Bank Group is trying to engage with the right financial tools, incentives, private sector counterparts to step in and be much more, let's say, supportive of this agri-food transition. So over to you.
Thank you very much. Although Mathieu made it very difficult for me, because like he highlighted already a lot of the important points I wanted to mention, but I think there's a great convergence of view there. You also framed the challenge very well. Like climate change is affecting agribusiness big time. So in terms of food security, in terms of prices, and that's one of the key challenge we need to tackle. And when at the World Bank Group, we think of smart development in terms of making this supply chain more resilient, contributing to growth, job, and making it in a way that support the transition and make like support adaptation. Agribusiness is right at the middle of this. One thing you already said, like public sector has a big role to play, and we'll get back to that. And the World Bank Group as a whole has like supported with more than $9 billion over the last 3 years into smart agriculture, like supporting directly 4.7 million farmers and helping avoid over 250 million CO2 equivalent in emissions. So a lot is happening already, but as you said, there's so much public sector also can do, and that's where private sector need to step in. And I think that's one of the priority we have at the moment, not only as part of a broader adaptation finance agenda and finance, but very much linking to the theme of nature and nature finance, how to have more sustainable practices, and that's the kind of different investment we try to bring in these days. When it comes to adaptation, we see it from two different lenses that directly apply to agribusiness. There's the climate proofing, making sure we can help our clients be more resilient, and in terms of agriculture, can go from the providing like different kind of seeds, or helping them like have access to alternative source of water, be more efficient, etc. All the things we're familiar with, but it also investing into climate solutions. So get back to that, and some of the examples is how to invest in some technology that would benefit the farmers and make the value chains more resilient. So like very concrete examples, like through our investment, like we invest a lot in funds, including venture capital funds, and two startup like we've been supporting through this fund. One is Apollo Agriculture in Kenya, and they basically provide a digital platform to the farmers, from helping them with the seed and crop selection, to having access to finance and having access to insurance, and getting information also to have better agriculture practices. This is like definitely making them more productive, and already through data and AI and satellite data be able to anticipate the effect of climate change on the production. Another one is Pula in Africa. It's same. It's an insurtech company, and here being able to support, like in case of impact on the production because of climate change, get compensated. And what is interesting and what has proven is having this insurance and access to this insurance and very easy to deploy, incentivized the farmers to produce more upfront, because rather than taking the risk and saying I may lose part of my crop, knowing that they had the insurance kind of incentivize them to also have better yield and better production. So this is a type of thing we see through the private sector. We also connection to that, we very much believe in, and there's a ministerial roundtable this afternoon on sustainable cooling, and we see the importance of cooling in terms of making the value chain and coming up with solution and technological solution to reduce food losses, food waste, and making the value chain more sustainable. So these are the kind of investment we support. When it comes to like how we strategically approach it, actually first we'll go back to working more with the public sector, working more with the World Bank. I think one thing that Mathieu stressed is there's still some work to be done at the policy level, how to build the capacity at the government level, how to redefine subsidies, to reorient subsidies in the food sector to more sustainable practices, etc. So there's still work to be done at the policy level, and work to be done to also remove some of the hurdles to private investment, so creating a more enabling investment. So all this upstream work still needs to happen, and IFC and the World Bank are very much working hand in hand, active in that. And there's in terms of upstream work, there's also the need still of to develop project and help structure cooperative, etc., to be able to make them bankable. So this is also work that we do before it comes to what were the heart of your question, but on purpose I said like it comes next, because before it comes to the financing itself. And for that, we have the different tools. So the capital structure, there's definitely need for more equity and patient capital in the sector. For that, there is a need to de-risk. So blended finance is much welcome in many of the geography that Mathieu mentioned, I think, but with the view of also mobilizing more and be able to structure a project in a way we will mobilize not just DFI and MDB capital, but really be able to redeploy or be able to channel institutional capital, whether domestic, either domestic or international. So there's a lot of work that is done also in terms of de-risking, repackaging, aggregating, to be able to have new kind of investors access this agri project. And just to illustrate this, and since you were talking about transformational approach, and I think it very much also connects to some of the messages that we're talking about, that colleagues talk about before on platform and having more programmatic approach. We've just launched the World Bank Group at our annual meeting last month, what we call Agri-Connect. It's an initiative that is exactly in the spirit of what you described, how to connect the public and the private sector, how to avoid like we have to reinvent the wheel all the time. How can we aggregate the capital and kind of standardize how we approach things with very thematic approach that connects what we discussed today. How to boost generative agriculture, more sustainable agriculture. How can we and sustainable practices. How can we how build the infrastructure, again, cooling or other type of infrastructure that will make agri-chain sustainable, and then how to connect and package the capital to get into the project faster, because that's one area where together and working as MDB, DFI, we need to scale up and go faster. So that's the kind of initiative, very concrete. I think that perfectly aligned with the Mattei plan or the Italian Climate Fund, the strategy, and that's where we want to go big time in the coming months, years.
Thank you very much, Aurelian. It was very comprehensive, and I want to just acknowledge how much we are all, I think, looking into specific initiatives. World Bank Group, IFC are launching the AgriConnect initiative you refer to, but more broadly, the efforts of the World Bank Group as a whole to reshaping, starting from itself, the international financial architecture, the MDB's overall approach. I think we are all very much interested in the follow-up process. Hopefully, this will shape up a more balanced and efficient development finance system. I want also to stress how much also from our side we see a growing role played by World Bank Group at large and IFC also vis-a-vis the bilateral cooperation with Italy with CDP. So I want to also acknowledge these increasing efforts from your side. That is very much appreciated, and we look forward to continue this work together. Also on some strategic initiative in sectors mentioned by Christina that may maybe lead the incoming months to some more flagship initiatives. So let's hope for the best. Last but not least, Eva from EIB. Again, Eva, European Investment Bank is such a big player, we said, on climate finance, on many other strategic priorities for Europe. I want to obviously ask to you the same big question that I mentioned to colleagues, transformative adaptation, multilateral partnership, strategic investments, the perspective of EIB. Please, over to you.
Thank you, and a tough act to follow. So I won't repeat what other colleagues have said because it's totally aligned with that. I just want to focus on a couple of things. I mean, Mustafa, you framed it really correctly. I mean, if you take sub-Saharan Africa, you've got, 18% of the GDP is in agriculture, but it's 55% of the population that works in agriculture. So there is a problem of inefficiency here. So what do we do about that? EIB has not been to date a very big player in the agricultural sector, but we have to say in the past 5 years, outside of the EU and sub-Saharan Africa, and within sub-Saharan Africa, we have financed over 2 billion. So that is quite substantial, and it is increasing. It's become a strategic priority. And our focus has shifted from, the large-scale forestry to large-scale agricultural, food processing to really smallholder. And there we have partnered extensively with IFAD, with FAO, to be able to deliver on impact. But something that today where we said, okay, how do we bring in the private sector? And because we've been working with the food industry in the EU, but also we've got 2 regulations that are impacting the value chain, which is the EU deforestation regulation, which is one of them. And we said, well, what do we do? So going forward, we are focusing on the value chain. That's one way to bring in the private sector. They have an interest. And to support then the transition of these smallholder farmers towards more sustainable agriculture. But in that transition, what we've seen, because we had, for example, $100 million euro loan to Côte d'Ivoire, where we supported the cocoa value chain, smallholders, all smallholders, is that we need to provide, in this whole adaptation context and resilience of livelihoods, alternative sources of revenue so that they do maintain their resilience. And what we have been looking at is what are the adequate forms of payment for ecosystems out there that can supplement what is happening in the climate space and making sure that their livelihoods are resilient to climate change. So moving forward, there's the whole discussion, and you may have attended a number of the panels on high integrity carbon markets and nature markets. So this is something, a big area that we are exploring together with our MDB colleagues, seeing how do we scale up financing for high integrity nature markets and carbon markets. And that would provide them that additional source of revenue within the framework of the International Advisory Panel on Biodiversity Credits, for example, but also looking at the work, and we are supporting the work with the EU on cooperative approaches under Article 6 to scale private sector investments in sustainable agriculture and forestry. And that could enable results-based financing for carbon smart farming practices, regenerative agriculture, as Aurélien mentioned, and deforestation-free value chains. The other, and Aurélien mentioned insurance, and we've seen insurance play a big role. We were discussing together in the marine, in the fisheries sector, together with other reinsurers, the linkage between climate resilient debt clauses and parametric insurance. Is there a way of linking the two of them so that actually that would provide, again, an additional incentive to actually funnel or channel financing toward more resilient activities, and in the case of agriculture, more resilient agricultural practices. So we've been working to enhance agricultural insurance scheme, and this at the moment includes feasibility studies on catastrophe bonds and risk management systems. And we are, of course, partnering with UN organizations to offer climate risk insurance schemes combined with microfinance. So those are some of the elements that we are working on currently. We cannot forget our strong partnerships with IFAD and FAO, and of course CDP in sub-Saharan Africa, because without you and without actually also supporting the smallholders, but also you having that experience on the ground is absolutely crucial, and then we can deliver on impact.
Thank you very much, Eva. I'm fully aware that this was a very, let's say, intimate conversation among ourselves, but still I found it extremely interesting also to in a way to acknowledge once again that we are very much on the same page, I think, in terms of strategic approach, vision, and also with a variety of bilateral, multilateral, operational work on the ground that I think is very much moving forward. So I want to thank you all again, starting with the IDFC for hosting us and for joining us in this conversation. And I do hope that this will be just a step in the journey of operational work on policy in bilateral and multilateral fora in coming months. So thanks so much. If you don't mind, maybe I would take a picture just of the panelists, which were the main actors of this event. Thank you very much. Sorry, it was okay. So thanks also for those who follow remotely. Thank you very much.